Hi. I got something on my sweatshirt. I'm gonna let people start rolling in. I want to just pull up. Let me just see. Okay. Um, hi. Okay, 7 people in. Let me just do this. And I am just realizing that on my phone, on my Zoom, it says 11 p.m. Obviously, I think it says every place else 11 a.m. Um, so this is good. And I have it on my calendar as 11 a.m. So this is good. We've made it. Hi. Good morning. It's not really morning, but I feel like I've been sitting in the same spot all morning answering emails because it's such a beautiful thing I do that I give myself the grace to not be on email over the weekend, but then that makes Monday mornings jammy. And I've committed since the new year. I took email off my phone, and like there's times where I like just now I had to pop on because I want to do a screen share about someone's test results. Um, and so like I pop on, but it's very specific. I don't answer emails from my phone anymore. I try not to. And it's been so nice. I'm like fully in the zone, and I know not all my clients love it, but like it just is what it is. We have a rule: if it's urgent, like CC my assistant, and then she knows other ways to get in touch with me. Or even like one of the coaches, like Sarah or Heather, will just text me, and that works too. But anyway, I've been sitting catching up on email for the last 2.5 hours and ordering herbs and all the things. But my inbox is at 13, and the emails that are in there now are from myself to myself, which are just the way I keep myself like kind of reminded and in the zone. Anyway, hi, happy Monday. I can't believe we're into week 3 already of the Ignite program. I just spent the last, so I guess that's not true. I wasn't answering emails the whole time. I was about 20, 30 minutes in the Ignite Mighty Networks group and just reading through what everybody wrote. Um, and pulling from words you all used in the past week, to kind of work on what I want to talk about today, because it's typical in this program where by the time we hit week 3 there are only like 5 comments. It's I think this is a great program for like listening and receiving, and becomes like different than the reboot where I don't know. It's just a different focus. I think the mental emotional focus is hard and or challenging, and it lends itself to not have so many questions, which is fine. And because I can fill the time, as you guys know, easily. So this past week 2, right, we were digging into our mantra. What are you believing about sorry, the mantra of the week is I trust my body's inner wisdom, but we were digging into unpacking all of the things you are believing about your fertility. And I especially love, I spent some time in um the what I'm ready to release, but also the character traits that you like about you. And I made a high level list of things that you all wrote out, which I think are beautiful, and I want to um share. uh, Adaptable, loyal, helpful, compassionate, connected, resilient, a fighter, loving, dedicated, devoted, powerful. And then I wrote worthy for all of you, because to me that is a big piece of this too, that I'm worthy of the life of my dreams, right? But the things that you are all recognizing about yourself. And I think that's a really important piece, to recognize those characteristics about you and then start to maybe translate is the right word, like embody them and bring them into the journey, because I think the fertility journey creates such well, what I often see when I get, kind of the frantic, stressed out emails or messages, it's overwhelming, it feels powerless, it feels confusing, it feels scary, it feels out of our control. It feels like the timeline is constantly being adjusted and again out of our control, right? So there's just it's chaotic and frenetic and confusing, and I think powerless. Powerless is the biggest thing that I see, where it's like I feel like I have no power here, which is what, obviously the work we do is to give you back power over, like, okay, these are the things you should be eating, these are the things you should be taking, this is, the routine you should have in the morning and in the evening, right? So giving you this structure that does feel like it's giving you this sense of power, because we can kind of trace back and be like, yeah, but morning sunlight really does impact your hormones and helps with melatonin, and which helps with progesterone, which helps with follicular phase, right? Like, I mean, we're not talking about all that here, but just meaning, or even like fat is good for egg quality, protein, skipping meals, bad for blood sugar, bad for hormones, right? So kind of giving you this sense of power by breaking it down and saying, yeah, do this to get these results, right? And I think, and some of you were saying, like, although this cycle didn't work out for me, these are the things I'm seeing shift. And so like, again, taking back the power, like, and do any of us have a power over our timeline? I don't think so. I think that's I'm not super religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I would say I think that's God's business or divine's business and the universe's business. It's not our business. It's not our business when they come through. It's not our business how they come through. Our business is in what I was talking about, I believe last week, of just like staying in that. I'm prepared to receive the opportunity, right? So getting in that zone of like, okay, and how do I prepare? And so, obviously, again, like I've said before, the homework is really intentional. And one of the ways I want you to start to feel more prepared is to remember who you are, remember your powers, remember the things that you like about you, the things that you are proud of, and how you've, always been resilient. You've always been loyal. You've always been helpful. You've always been connected. You've always been dedicated. You've always been devoted. You don't take no for an answer. You're resilient. You fight. You push. So much of like retelling the story, which is this week, is about realizing the agency that you do have over your story, realizing the growth that has happened because of this journey. Now, of course, with the asterisk of saying no one chose this journey, it's nobody's fault that you're here. I understand that, right? We always say, what do they say now? Worst club, best members, right? I think you guys say that. I love that. But also that thing, and I always liken it to like when my dad had cancer, it was like, listen, we're in a club we never wanted to belong to, but we're here. We're here. And so now what? Right? So can we, and I think we have every right to allow the journey to overwhelm us, to make us feel powerless, to make us want to kick and scream because it feels really unfair, right? Like that all, and so much of, what I say and what I will always continue to say is, this is not about just being positive and hopeful all the time. I think that's toxic and unrealistic. It's about giving airtime to those feelings, right? So I do feel powerless. I do feel overwhelmed. I do feel really scared. I do feel like, I'm mad at my body, or it's hard to trust my body, or my body has failed me, or, I do feel like the timeline is just slipping away faster than I ever anticipated. I do feel like the odds are stacked against me, right? Like all of that is valid and real. So first, like, you are seen and you are heard, right? And I want you to do that for yourself. This is all valid and real. None of this is like you've made it up. Someone shared. I didn't share it because I think it's like pretty offensive too. But one of the like health coach types that is a patient of mine that I follow back. Or she was a patient of mine. She's now on the other side of the journey, but she shared a reel from some woman named like Becca something or other. I think she calls herself a TikTok actress, but she pretends to be a doctor in the video, a gynecologist, and she says something like, "Your gynecologist who has a degree in gaslighting," and it's literally like a minute long video of like every most horrific thing that a doctor could say to a patient about like PMS or pain or and just completely like invalidates everything. Like, no, you don't have endometriosis. No, it's probably all in your head. No, this isn't a hormone issue. You're normal. You're fine. This is what everybody experiences. Like, go shut up. Um, and so I don't know how I got there, but like it's all really valid what you feel, and you never deserve to be gaslit. You never deserve to be told that that's not valid, and you never deserve to be told like just keep a journal and think positive thoughts and everything will change. No, like there's a space and a container for all of this, but then also I think there's a bigger container around that space that is you. And that's the character traits we talked about last week, right? Where is she in this? Yes, she has these moments, right? So but it's almost like it's a portion, it's not the whole. Whereas I think what happens is we get so consumed and we're so spent our time in this portion that it begins to feel like the whole. So important to step out and say, who else am I? What else defines me? What have I done in times of challenges before? What have I overcome? Like, who am I at the core, right? And not forgetting that person, and then taking that and I think applying it to this journey or to the journey as a whole. And taking back that agency, taking back that power on the levels where you can, right? We like I said, I don't think the timeline is always in our power. I do think, one of the things that I say a lot, like, y- you know, from a business perspective, from a team perspective, like what I think I am really good at is making the process as efficient as possible, right? So, like, yeah, I think there's a way we can make the timeline more efficient, right? And that's getting the right care and getting the right tests done, getting the right support, asking for it, right? So much of what I have to teach, I think, even in the one-on-one clients or when we're working closely together is getting women to know what to ask for. They don't even know where to begin to ask for the support because they feel so overwhelmed and shut down by the process, right? The trauma is so significant that you don't even realize like what is it I need to ask for next. And I think by kind of taking a step back and what are the characteristics that I know are in me or that I have shown myself before in my life, it helps you step back and remind yourself of who you are. And then it's like, oh, right, okay, who am I? Right, okay. So and also, I go back to how I always say it of like, what is this on my screen? It's like all these, so strange. Um, my Google Doc just has all these green lines everywhere now. I don't know why. I'm just gonna ignore it. I don't know what this is. It's so weird. Okay. But beginning to tell the new story, which is what the focus is for this week, requires us to, I think, know what it is we need. And almost, I was gonna say like whiteboard it, like what's in my power and what's not. And am I willing to let go of what's not in my power? So I think, and we can do that now too if you guys have a journal. Um, and I guess I'll end with the blessing because I pulled it up, but now I'm just in it already. So it feels like, well, let's think about that. Okay, so what is in my power on this journey? How I nourish myself, the relationships I surround. I'm going to start writing this actually. because I think it's important. And I have other things that I've written out, but what's in my power on this journey? How I nourish myself. And that includes, right? I think that includes all the lifestyle stuff like diet, supplements, sleep, movement, um, nervous system stuff, right? That how I nourish myself. Like vitamin J is in there too, but I'm going to give it its own category. So joy, relationships, who I choose to listen to or take advice from, who I choose to give my power to. And that requires honesty and deep acknowledgement. Are you giving your power to the person who told you you're too old or you're running out of time or your eggs are all bad, right? That's one opinion. And it might feel like the larger, bigger opinion, but it's truly one opinion. Because also, right, I was reading in the group, you know, there's also women who are getting pregnant in their 50s, right? Like, so, okay, I can choose to give my power to that story, or I can choose to give my power to the, IVF doctor that told me my eggs are all bad and I'm running out of time. So that's in your lane. What's in my power? How I nourish myself, vitamin J, the relationships I keep, who I choose to listen to and take advice from, who I choose to give my power to. I also believe the doctors I choose to work with. Now, I know that gets tricky because there's insurance and out of pocket and expenses. I understand the trickiness of that, but I do still think that that's in our power. What I choose to believe, remember, our beliefs are just thoughts we continue to think, then we look for the social proof in our life. What I choose to be honest with myself about. What I ask for from my partner, if you're in a partnership. You can't control how your partner eats, what supplements he takes, she takes, right? But I can control what I ask for, how I show up for me. I still think that goes into the nourishment category, how I show up for me. What or anything else? If you guys want to drop it in the chat, what comes to mind? What else do you think is in your power on this journey? No one. And then what I think is what's not in your power is your timeline. Whether I put my life on hold, right? There we go. Minimizing stress, that's a good one. So the nervous system work. I put that in the nourish category, but I'm going to do it. Nervous system work. One thing I say a lot to my one-on-one clients, and you guys are in here, is how much of me am I giving away to others versus keeping for myself? And I think that falls into that nourishment and the relationship piece too. So like, how much am I giving away? Um, Whether I put my life on hold, I love that. Um, and I think that correlates to me with like the vitamin J. Like, am I choosing to let this occupy everything, or am I happy on the way to the life of my dreams? I'm going to write that, being happy on my way. And I'll put this to the life of my dreams. I'll put this list in our thing. Reclaiming negative thoughts. I love that. So that's beliefs. How much I do or don't tell people on my journey. That's right. That's relationships, boundaries. I'm going to write relationships and boundaries here. It's none of their fucking business. Period. End of sentence. And you have every right to say exactly that to them, but you could say it graciously, I suppose. Like right now, we're choosing, like it's just been hard. We've been on this journey a while. I'll share updates when I have them. Okay. Thanks for asking. I'll share updates when I have them. Holding on to the learnings and practices long after it ends. That's a good one. I love that. Yeah, like revisiting this, like reminders. I think rituals. Rituals is a good one to write. So rituals, and that could mean like the rituals of the acknowledgement journal, the rituals of like we're going to rewrite our story right this week. We're starting it today in the homework. Am I going to choose to read that story every day? Am I going to choose to remember I gave you the forgiveness prayer last week? And that inner child meditation, it's such a bummer. That is a coach of my one friend who shared that with me, that told me I could share it with my clients because I loved it so much. And then she's made it private again. So now I can't share it. So I guess I could reach out to her. I just don't really have a relationship with her anymore, but or never did. But anyway, I'll figure that out. But rituals. So like I'm gonna record myself saying that forgiveness prayer that Amy shared last week. I'm gonna listen to it every day. I'm gonna rewrite my fertility story, and then I'm gonna record myself reading it, and I'm gonna listen to that every day. I'm gonna have my partner rewrite our story, and he's gonna record himself reading it, and I'm gonna listen to that. Right? All of these things would actually less than 5 minutes, by the way. So it's not like, but just like, what am I choosing to give my attention to? Do I want to implement these strategies for me that keep me focused on the goal and in the lane of what's in my power? Or do I want to give my time and energy away to the circulating thoughts that are not supportive in the timeline and like month after month? Sure. Like I just, we do the GI map with our FFP students, and one of our girls came back and she's got a lot going on in her gut, and she said, gosh, this just feels like I'm so behind, on time. Like now I have to dedicate 8 weeks to this, and it already feels like another 2 months without trying. And it's like, and we always give options of like, you can try, you cannot try, and we divide up the protocol, just to respect timelines. But anyway, it was just this feeling of like, again, right? It's like, okay, but we found things to treat. Isn't that what we want? Where this is ultimately going to, give you back more power over your hormones. Um, I, but again, this is my, I have the luxury of sitting in this space because I've been doing it for so long. So I have the luxury of hope because I've seen it work more than I haven't. Me and my perspective is those 2 months are actually anti-aging you. They're giving you time on the other side. So it's almost like, what side of the coin am I choosing to look at? I'm going to write that. Rituals. The side of the coin I look at. The statistics I choose to believe. Because, we could disprove them if we want. We totally could. One of my girls asked for an endometrial biopsy because I said, I think you need one. You haven't ever been pregnant. Her doctor's been doing timed intercourse procedures with her. I think 6 months. They've never done an HSG on her. I wanted to like scream and vomit at the same time. So then I tell her, and anyway, she sends me an email on Friday that I got back to this morning. And she said, I asked my doctor about the HSG. She said she's willing to do that. She doesn't think I need a saline sauna. The woman's like 45. She's never been pregnant. They've been trying for about a year. I'm like, okay. Let's see what the HSG reveals, and then we'll decide the saline sauna. Oh, and we don't do the endometrial biopsies anymore. They're a bit antiquated. I'm like, excuse me, what? I wrote back to her. I said, honestly, that response infuriates me. Here's current research, like from 2022 onward, current research about the argument. So anyway, I know I digress, but like encapsulating that like into what I'm trying to say to you guys is like, whose advice am I choosing to listen to? How can I navigate speaking up for myself, right? So, that's the one thing. How I ask for support. Um, and also, like, I understand that, right? She's going through insurance. This is a friend of a friend, like the sister of her uncle or something like that, that is the doctor at this clinic and one of the best clinics in New York, Um, and, I understand all that too. Uh, from my perspective, I would get the F out of Dodge in that clinic and I would find a clinic that would work with me. And I'd figure it out, so like also like how almost like how much I hold myself back versus how much faith I have, Um, anyway, so I'm gonna go into like what's not in my power. Timeline, age. But I would argue that I'm gonna actually just write biological, no, chronological age, sorry. Chronological age, what my partner does, what my doctor believes, what else is not in my power. The number of eggs I have left. Ish. I think ish about that because I think now there's things like PRP and stem cell and arguments of like the stem cells that we're actually born with and are we really running out of eggs, right? So, but I'll put that in there because sure, but we could focus on I'm going to write in the what I do have power, quality. So we don't have quantity is not in our. Now, other people, I want you guys to chime in here. What do you believe is not in your power on the fertility journey? Some of it I might agree with, and some of it I might counter lovingly. So right now I have timeline, chronological age, what my partner does, what my doctor believes, the number of eggs I have left, what people, family think. Okay, yeah, the pregnancies that surround me, you don't have control over that, right? But you have control about your reaction. So I'm going to say up here, my reaction to those who fall pregnant, but you cannot control how they fall pregnant or what their story is, right? Of course. Um, we do not control what my family or friends believe, right? But like that's so this is where like, Abraham is like always in my brain and Deepak just because of like the amount of times I've listened to them lecture on these things. Um, we would put all of that into a container of like that's God's business. That's none of your business anyway, right? Like I think I was sharing a story the other day of one of my girls who literally just got a positive pregnancy test, but the 2 weeks before we spoke, and she was kind of in this timeline. They've been trying now for a few months. I hadn't spoken to her since we kind of like set up the timeline for baby number two and like what to do and all the things. Um, and now, mind you, her backstory is failed IVF and miscarriage before working group coaching with us, kind of like around COVID, so 2020. I think her current child is a year and a half or two. I think she's two. So, go back and now we got pregnant naturally with that one, timed intercourse, and then now trying again for 6 months and baby number two. So now you think about the timeline here. She's now 5 years older, by the way, from those last failed IVFs. So I just want you to like keep that in mind. But she says to me, um, something about like anything I can do to pick the gender of the baby and then stress about the timeline. And I said to her, none of your fucking business. I love you so much. I'm here for you. None of your fucking business. Like that's the siblings' decision. That's the baby's decision. That's get out of their lane. It's not your lane. So same thing here. Like, and I highly recommend all of you to read Mel Robbins' book, Let Them. It's powerful. Listen to her podcast. It's amazing. But like all of this is let them. Let them believe what they're gonna believe. Let them, like, it's not my, I don't have to whatever, expend energy, effort to change their mind. I don't, like, who am I doing this for? To prove something? To prove them wrong? That's a lot of energy. Or am I just doing this for me? Right? So that's almost like that falls into the boundaries too, of like how I uphold my boundaries is mine. Our genetics, I disagree about that, Susan. So I love you. And this is a great conversation. And if, body belief, I get into it the most. Only 5% of diseases are actually genetically heritable, meaning unavoidable. 5%. Everything else, 95% in our control. Epigenetics. Outcome of IVF, I also might challenge there. But I'll put it here. So I'm going to, I will put in this, what we have control over is epigenetics and how our genes act and manifest. We have a lot of control over that. Now, so epigenetics is all about how we live our life, right? There's a huge branch of science about it. It's been around now for almost 2 decades. How we live our life directly impacts whether genes turn on or turn off. So yes, we might be predisposed. So I'll write in what's not in my power, genetic predisposition. I'll write that for you all. But I will firmly, lovingly, scientifically disagree about the genetics. And I appreciate it so much, Susan. Like, I don't want anybody to be afraid to say what they say because I'm going to argue how unsupportive, uninformed, or negative some doctors and practitioners are. Right. So I already wrote that. What my doctor believes. Again, none of your business. Like, love you, mean it. None of our business, though. Like, and what I often say to my girls is like, I want you to walk into that appointment, like addressing the elephant in the room, addressing what you think they're going to say to you before they even say it. I understand my age. I understand my potential for outcomes. I understand my history. However, with all of that, this is what I'm hoping to do. Are you the right doctor for me? I tend to keep my feelings and updates results to myself so I don't have to say when something is not as positive. Not sure if that is a good thing. I think that's a healthy boundary. Is that Tara? I think that's a healthy boundary. But I would say I want you to feel like you do have certain people you can release to versus keeping it all inside. So I think we could say what I do have what I do have control over is how I express myself and to whom, right? So I would say choosing my tribe is another one that you have control over. Outcomes of IVF, holding the pregnancy. Okay, so and this is a fine line of and this is me being really clinical right now. So give me grace here. I do believe we have control over. So there are those 20% of pregnancies that end in miscarriage that are chromosomal and we don't have control over, right? So that, yes. Recurrent pregnancy loss, repeat implantation failure, repeat failed IVFs, I think we have more control over. Because we could change doctors, we could change protocols, we could get second and third opinions, we could do more genetic. I didn't mean that. We could do more testing on the miscarriage panel, right? We could do the hysteroscopy. We could push for the endometrial biopsy. We could ask for the clotting factors to be tested, ask for autoimmune to be tested. We could get to a hematologist. We could try an autoimmune protocol. We could order the pregnant testing. We could do the fertility testing. We could find another doctor. We could, and I have plenty of girls who've done it, and it's obviously on their discretion, not mine. They will adjust their own meds if their doctors aren't willing to. They will go on Reddit. They will talk to other girls in our communities. They will follow what someone else did that got success. So there's a fine line there, but I think that comes down to not doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's where I would go. So yes, some miscarriages are out of our control. So I'm going to write that. Miscarriage with an asterisk. IVF with an asterisk. And the asterisk is not doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So, and almost like, I think what you do have power over is getting a second and a third opinion, a second, or even, and I understand again about insurance and things of that nature. You know, I also know some of the great doctors out there, that opinion is $300, $400. I also know that that's a lot of money. That's a grocery bill for most families, you know, in a month. I understand that. Is it something we start saving for? Is there like an extra fund, or, you know, is it something I'm willing to do to get another opinion? Because what we are currently doing is not working. Is it like, you know, I mean, I just did this in the community we have within the FFP group. You know, one of my patients has continuously had poor IVF outcomes, miscarriages. Her doctors at Shady Grove refuse to do any additional testing, keep telling her there's nothing wrong. It's all egg quality, even though she's making genetically normals, right? Like, totally gaslighting the shit out of her. She's handed them that miscarriage panel that I have, and they've been like, this is all bullshit. We're not doing any of it. So sorry. And she, very, you know, educated, intellectual woman, she said to me, what does someone do in a situation like this, Amy? I love you. I have obviously paid you to work with you one-on-one. I trust you, but my doctors won't do any of it. What do I do? I've urged another opinion. She half hears me. So what I did, I reached out to a doctor who's actually in my group, who is a patient of ours, that they live in the same town, or same city. And I said, and she's been through very similar. She was at that clinic. She left that clinic. She's now discovered she's got autoimmune issues, clotting factor issues, implantation failure issues. She's now with the right team, getting the right care and the right support so that she can carry and have a successful IVF. I said, can you guys go for lunch? And can you talk to her? So who I'm choosing to take advice from, I think on some level, but also, am I willing, like, I think my ability to not keep doing the same thing over and over again, my ability to decide when it's time to move on, to try something new. So although I agree with IVF outcomes, it's like a slash, because were you over medicated? Was the sperm not up to par? Did we do, you know, I could say what we also have additional testing is in our control. DNA fragmentation, clotting factors, right? So I think there's a fine line there of choosing to stay and not changing anything. I'm finding that there's a lot of practitioners, coaches, et cetera, that try to wring people dry with the cost of supplements and number of sessions. It starts to play with your mind when you see the people who are supposed to help are kind of clearly taking advantage of you financially. I know this can be a costly process, but sometimes it's obvious that people are taking advantage of the situation. I agree, you know, and Erica, you know how I feel about some of those supplements, that the nameless will remain nameless. And I've shared with other practitioners about that too, because I was like upended. I couldn't agree more. And so I think, I don't know how to say this, because obviously I'm a practitioner that charges for her services. I also, though, am a practitioner that will say, first and foremost, I think it's absolutely fucking appalling that something like my services are not covered by insurance. I think that's outrageously obnoxious and devastating. Slash, yeah. Then there's I think what you want to look for in that is, I guess, do they offer now we're, we have 18 minutes. I still want to get to this, but like, do they offer other things like this, like a low program price that they could you still get like a group support in there? Do they offer options for supplements, not just theirs? Do they have I don't know what's yeah like I guess, do they have a proven track record? Um, I've heard of practitioners that are like, they do that discovery call and they'll say to you something like, how many credit cards do you have in your pocketbook right now? Let's just max them out so that you can join this program because there's only 3 spots left, kind of thing. Same thing. Like, that practitioner is in the absolutely do not recommend category. And in fact, I've gone after some other people who I love and admire who have recommended services from that person. And I'm like, do you know what they do? Like, so I don't know. I think have your antennas up, do your homework, do your research, go. You guys all have your private communities. Go in and ask about these people, get really good quality feedback. And I think also be careful with what you subscribe to and what you sign up for. And that's where it's extra work though, like Erica. I mean, for all of you, you'd like to be able to rely on. I also think it's really smart to kind of keep your list to a few people versus everyone, because then it just starts to feel contradictory and confusing, right? Um, I wish it was easier. But I do think like how I choose to spend my money is in our power, is another one. Um, okay. This is not where I saw the class going today, which is funny. But so I want to just make sure I talk about a couple of the things but we have a good list. One of the things like this week, right? So I am receiving all I desire. I think that's hard to fully believe, like all the mantras. So I want you to allow yourself to question that, allow yourself to argue that, allow yourself to not feel fully aligned with that, but then also allow yourself to imagine what it would feel like if you did. How will it feel? What will you let yourself feel when you go beyond the fear? What would it feel like to be free of those fears? How would we act? What would we do? What would we say? I want you, because I think not you, all of us, it's easy for us to stay in the space of how it feels to have it not work and what it looks like, what we do, what we say, how we react, right? Where we place blame, where we have shame, where the fears get triggered, where all of this comes up. Can you give yourself, and maybe that's one of the homework assignments, an additional one is what I mean. That there's 10 minutes of that worry time, and then there's 10 minutes of the dreaming, 10 minutes of imagining. You set the timer on your phone, you free write, you journal, you daydream, you go for a walk in nature, you dance to your favorite songs, whatever those 10 minutes look like, but where you are embodying what it feels like, what it looks like, how it tastes, how it smells, how it, like, oh, the relief, the ease, the peace, the deep gratitude, the like overwhelming tears of joy, like that feeling of like falling to your knees of like, thank you, finally, that feeling, getting into that space. What does it feel like to receive all that I desire? And then I think another good question, and this is in the homework of like, can I be happy on my way to the life of my dreams versus only happy when I get there? If I eat a piece of pear. I'm going to get into, I think there were a couple of things here. Week 3 discussion. I'm really beginning to trust my body and feeling so much more positive and light as I approach my upcoming FET. But the little bubbles of positive thinking I'm working on in the privacy of my mind is so easily burst when I talk about my experience with others, even medical professionals outside the field of fertility. So, right there, what's in my power, what I share, the boundaries, right? Who I choose to listen to. But let me read on. Yesterday, I was having a great day and feeling confident in all the efforts I'm making. And then I heard, there's always a direction. I know this person was trying to make me feel better, but this totally undoes everything I'm working on. I really started to question myself because I could feel their lack of faith. I'm wondering, how can I help myself when people say things like this? Let them, let them, let them, let them. It's not, you cannot control how people feel or think. I think what you can do is like, oh, they're projecting. That person's projecting their own fears onto me. What I do with them is my business. And then also, like what you did, I know they're coming from a good place. And right now, like, this is all they can think of to say. It's one of the worst things you could say to a woman on the journey, though, right? You know, I think we have a list, and that's one of them. So I think if I choose to give their words power or not, how can I do a better job of that? And maybe part of that is right now, we're just not oversharing, which, you know, like, but share in the community that feels safe, that you're never going to get a feedback like that. I often find myself not thinking at all about my fertility ahead of my second FET in 10 weeks. I work a hectic and often stressful job and does take over mentally, which is sometimes a blessing, right? But am I not thinking about it often because I'm busy or because there's an innate fear or avoidance? It could be both. It could be you're busy for distraction. Also, is this some sort of protection? Right. Possibly. I find this super strange because this is something I truly want. But then once the routine begins, my old habits and thoughts take over. How do I break out of the cycle and trust my body's mind and wisdom? I think that's where a ritual would come in. I think that every day I'm going to give myself 10 minutes to think about this. And I think then you'll really discover, is it busyness masking itself as like avoidance, you know what I mean? Or, protection? Or is it that, I feel like I skipped somebody, sorry. I should say 5 and there's only 3, though. You see what I mean? There's only 3 comments, but it says there's 5 comments. I'm very confused. All right, well, I'll do these all, and if I'm missing someone's comment, come and say. So I think going back to what I was saying is I would create a ritual around it, and every day there's 10 minutes. And the question just is, how am I feeling about my upcoming FET? How am I feeling about my fertility today? How am I feeling about the journey today? Could also be, how am I going to support my fertility today? What are the things I'm doing to support my fertility today? What are some ways you think we can engage or recruit our partner so they, good, support us in our own mindset shifts, to trust our inner wisdom, and also experience their own mindset shifts? I mean, it's hard because everybody's partners are different, and it's hard. This is hard. So it's like, you can't control them, I think, as long as you understand that. And B, I think the best thing we can do in our partnerships is lead by example. So one thing you can do here is, like what I said, what's in our power is how we ask for support. Okay, so how we ask for support. Let me just get back to my list because I liked that list. What did I say? What I ask for from my partner. So I think that could be, hey, I'm doing this program, as you know, and a lot of mindset work and beliefs, and I'm wondering if you could do this exercise with me, or I'm wondering if you could write out, like, what are like 5 reasons why you believe that I always say to my patients, like, to get their partners involved, like, you both should write out separately away from each other, what is your why behind becoming a parent? So give me 5 reasons why you think you'll be amazing as a parent. Give me 5 reasons why you think I'll be amazing as a parent. Give me 5 reasons why you think, even though this has been hard, we're still going to get there. It's that kind of thing. If that makes sense. Um, and I think then it's like, another thing I'll recommend is then same thing as what I was just saying. I don't have your full name. It says RS here. So to RS's, which I know you're on here. As I was saying to her, then a ritual around it. Every Wednesday for 10 or 20 minutes, we meet in this, and I let him openly share. I do not cut him off. I do not talk over him. I do not get defensive. I do not argue. I just listen. And then he does the same for me. So again, what I ask for from my partner, I cannot control his thoughts. I cannot control what he eats outside of this house. I cannot control, what he believes. These are the things I can control. And then let me see. This was a question in the discussion. I've been on this journey for 7 years. I used to consider myself a strong, independent person, but this journey has beaten me down. I find that I have lost confidence in doing sometimes even the simple things, second guessing myself about decisions or wanting someone to join me for an activity I used to do by myself. How do I get my confidence back? Okay. Sorry, I read the second question too. Thank you, Susan. I don't know why I can't see them on my end. It's very strange to me. I go back up here. So how do I get my confidence back? I think it's that, oh, here it is, Susan. I see this one now. Okay. Sorry. Now I see it. I had to refresh, which is weird. Okay. So I feel like that exercise we did last week about the characteristics of yourself. So I think maybe there's like, again, this is how my brain works. So yours might not work this way, but like pre-fertility, post-fertility. Who was I? So like obviously you said you were an independent, confident person, strong, and now we're second guessing ourselves. And maybe thinking about things that still feel easy. I would also like do an exercise around like almost just this thing of like why has my fertility become like the leading story? Almost like in this place of like, how much power am I giving it? And like, where are the areas in my life where being fertile or not does not define me, if that makes sense? Or having success on this journey. So, like, I don't know. I think at the core of it, it's just because it's made you doubt yourself so much. Like you probably thought, like all of you, right, that this was going to be, pregnancy was something you avoided until you didn't want to, and then it would just be easy. And it's like, and then it's not. And so then it makes you question everything, right? Because I always, saw my life one way and now it's not that way. And so does that mean everything I thought was a lie, or a hoax or all made up in my mind, And so I feel like the best thing to do is to go back, kind of prove yourself wrong in a sense of like, well, here's one thing I thought would always happen for me and it did, or here's one way I thought things were going to go and they did go that way. And maybe just trying to like lightly, gently, lovingly find the glimmers in each day and focus on those. So, right, the glimmer, isn't it glimmer versus trigger? I like that. But what is something that is working out for me right now? And even going back to, the ritual I was talking about before of like, can I spend 10 minutes a day, in the worry and in the space of I'm not confident, I'm second guessing myself, I'm doubtful, and all that. And then what would it look like if I wasn't? What would the old Susan do? That's kind of like I would almost come at it like that. And like, what does this current Susan need? It's like it can't and I love you guys and I want this for you guys. I'm not saying this, but like it can't be a positive pregnancy test that makes everything better. It can't be that because it's not gonna be that. I love you guys so much. I've seen it hundreds of times. It is not going to be the game changer. Like, yes, it's going to lift you, but then there's going to be 100 more things to worry about and 100 new things. And it's called PTSD. Then all of a sudden you're like a deer in headlights, pregnant and not knowing how to like reintegrate into the world, you know? So um, the pregnancy is not the fix. It's of course a huge win and of course what we want, but so it's like, what kind of mother do I want to be? Maybe that's another question. Or how do I want to show up in the world? Like to show, you know, if you believe in the spiritual piece, to show my future children, like this is the mom you're gonna get. Um, it's like reminding yourself and peeling back the layers because it's like I think there's just so much, you know, protection that has gone on now where it's like you just feel like a shell of yourself. And so I think maybe you pick one thing a day to think about that, like, what does Susan need now to like inject herself with some more vitamin J? But then also, what would the old Susan tell this Susan? Maybe that's part of it. And then I'm finding that this program is bringing up a lot more issues than I thought. I feel like I started shifting my mindset more positively after week 1, but now it seems more negative and worse than before I started. Is that normal? I think so. Sometimes, like, I mean, obviously, it's not my intention, but I think it's the acknowledgement piece or the honest piece is hard to face. And then also, like the superficial mindset work, kind of like what I said, the universe hears what you're feeling, not what you're saying, you know, so that like toxic positivity, kind of like upbeat stuff is like it's superficial. So going deeper to the core and looking at it is hard. But if week 1 and that work made you feel better, maybe go back and revisit it again, you know, like to kind of get perspective again. That's another thing I would think about. But I do think it's, you know, the unfolding is not easy. Looking at our truths is not easy. Acknowledging is not easy. Um, but you're also giving airtime to the repressed emotions, which I feel is so freaking powerful. It's like what I said, I think it was last week, and I wrote it here to go over it for this week, or just I wonder, until what is okay with you, it cannot improve. How can we be happy now? So it's like maybe on some superficial level, you can like, you know, get in there. But then when we go deeper, it's like, no, none of this is okay with me. I am not okay. Okay. So what can we do to like peel away and get back to this? You know, and it's not like I didn't say to get back to this like, oh my gosh, overwhelming sunshine and rainbows place. No, just being okay. Or at least like, okay, this is where I am. So acceptance, maybe that's it. Maybe there's an internal battle of like, I can't accept this right now. And then that could be also where it's hard to want to spend time with people because it's what you lead with now of like my fragility journey is me and it is you, but there's other parts of you too, so it's about waking those back up. It's not about like recreating you, it's waking up the parts of you that have gotten quiet in this process. um okay, so I want to wrap up with the fertility blessing, and I'm going to read it 3 times. So I'll let you guys just kind of close your eyes if you're in a space that that's safe to do and listen. Oh, you're welcome, Susan. And I feel for you. My heart hurts for you that but I just think it's hard to look at things. I give you so much credit though for being honest about it and being here and continuing to show up. And so like to me that, you know, like from a practitioner perspective, it like makes me emotional to say this, but like to me that shows me that you do believe and you do have faith in yourself, and like you are still in there is what I would say. She's still in there, so give her some, like, shine some light on her, and instead of it feeling like there's like so much work to do, it's like it's really just about like decluttering to let the light through versus like I have to do new things to bring in the joy. Does that make sense? It's just Marianne Williamson always says it the best, and I can't really summarize her entirely, but like it's not about getting rid of the darkness. It's about like opening the blinds to let the light in. And I love that analogy just to think about it of like, okay, I'm in this dark room right now. What would it take to open the blinds? And it's hard to let the light in. It's hard to have hope because it's been so hard. But then, maybe this is something you journal about or spend time thinking about. So then why'd you sign up for this? Right? You know what I mean? I know, because it's like you want to be reawakened. You believe it's in there for you. You believe that. And so show us her, show you her, show her to you. Okay. A fertility blessing. Dearest infinite creator, you know my deep desire for a child, a little one to love and to hold, to care for, to cherish. Grant that my body may conceive and give birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. Guide me in all my choices so that this conception, my pregnancy, and my baby's birth are in the highest good for all. Allow me the peace to carry this hope in my heart, mind, and spirit. Please and thank you. Dearest infinite creator, you know my deep desire for a child, a little one to love and to hold, to care for, to cherish. Grant that my body may conceive and give birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. Guide me in all my choices so that this conception, my pregnancy, and my baby's birth are in the highest good for all. Allow me the peace to carry this hope in my heart, mind, and spirit. Please and thank you. Dearest infinite creator, you know my deep desire for a child, a little one to love and to hold, to care for, to cherish. Grant that my body may conceive and give birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. Guide me in all my choices so that this conception, my pregnancy, and my baby's birth are in the highest good for all. Allow me the peace to carry this hope in my heart, mind, and spirit. Please and thank you. And so it is. Okay. So enjoy this week with the stories. I also think too, back, to all of you here, please make sure, go back and re-listen to Sam's hypnosis recordings as much as you can. That really helps retrain the brain. So think about that too, okay? Therapy is super powerful, guys, too. If your insurance covers it, talking to someone. There's also, honestly, some of our girls do really well taking an antidepressant, and it shifts things. There's some great ones that are pregnancy safe, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with you, but like this journey is hard, and this is significant trauma. So just remember, like, call in the support you need. You deserve it. You are worthy of being supported. I'm going to put up the list of things in my control versus out of my control right now. And then I'm going to see you guys next week, okay?